How does $72 million end up on an airport director's desk without anyone noticing? And why did those 3 hard drives require a cyber forensics lab to decode? Tonight we open the door, the FBI and DHS kicked in. You'll see how Operation Wolverine Shield exposed midnight cargo flights, camera blackout windows, and insider badges tied to CJNG. By the end, you'll know what was stored on those drives, how the Nexus file mapped 48 staff vulnerabilities, and where the drugs moved next across 6 corridors into Canada. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. So how do 840 federal agents move on a sitting airport director's office and leave no trail a savvy insider could sniff? They start by cutting noise. 3 staging areas came alive after midnight, not on the main approaches, but in slow-lit perimeter lots where airport employees rarely park. Convoys peeled in with engines cooled and lights killed, swapping to low-power handhelds tied to a closed FBI net. DHS aircraft idled beyond civilian radar lanes, holding patterns where flight trackers don't show casual blips. No chatter crossed common frequencies. No badge geofence pings either, because the few who had to cross the wire didn't badge at all. Inside, the target sat behind layers of controlled access. Elevator fobs that recurse to admin-only floors, keypad to glass vestibule, 2-door man-trap that logs entry and exit to the same second. Internal cameras rolled through their cycle, nothing odd on the monitors. Later, servers showed pinhole blackout windows stacked like stepping stones, each aligned to exact arrival times. 38 seconds here, 42 there. Enough to hide movement in the halls, but not enough to throw red flags before sunrise audits. The breach hit at once. A hallway team took the hinge side on the inner door, while a second unit covered the admin corridor. Cyber operators cut remote wipe pathways by yanking uplinks at the switch, then isolating the core with drop-in filters. 90 seconds after the first shoulder tap, evidence techs pushed hard cases and Faraday bags across the threshold. Laptops and phones went dark under mesh. The desktop tower lost power at the strip, its network cord sealed in an evidence sleeve with a timestamp and an agent ID. If you're wondering why so few knew, Joint Ops Doctrine explains it. Compartmentalization keeps even friendly eyes off the plan. Only a dozen airport liaisons saw the order. Everyone else learned when doors opened and alarms stayed quiet. Warrants were staggered in sealed packets, each released as the prior location went under. Maintenance work orders masked movements, a light bank out, a vent inspection, a carpet repair. Crews who walked by saw ladders and carts, not a federal stack. On the desk, inventory ran like a receipt. Bundles of high-value notes wrapped tight in clear film, each pack clipped with a tag for serial capture. 3 encrypted hard drives sat under aviation vendor stickers, common labels that would disappear in a parts closet. Those drives didn't just encrypt. The layout suggested a layered SOP, multi-key unlocks, directory structures buried inside decoy trees, and containers that open only inside exact time windows. The timing hints at link-ups with Cartel comms rhythms, where messages and money move on predictable beats only insiders know. Then the access keys surfaced, restricted passes that shouldn't exist, some cloned from legitimate staff with a few digits flipped, some issued to names tied to Shell employees who never clocked a shift. On a whiteboard, routing codes matched known CJNG air corridors, not in letters that scream Cartel, but in shorthand used on cargo notes, 3 characters, a slash, 2 numbers, the kind of markings a loader writes in a rush. So how did the 840 arrive without a whisper? A joint order locked in weeks earlier, warrants timed to stack without overlap, and maintenance work orders that pulled eyes to the ceiling while teams moved on floors below. The raid proved scale. The files explained design. Next comes the part that turns a quiet office into a moving artery, midnight flights under vague manifests, borrowed identities, and a son who knew every dead zone between a badge reader and a cargo bay. Why did manifests list weights that couldn't match the aircraft specs, vague cargo like non-perishable assemblies? And why did pallets move through camera dead zones as if the floor belonged to one crew? The drives laid out the answer in a flat spreadsheet that didn't look dangerous until you lined the columns. 46 flights, all past midnight, stretched across 4 years. Each carried the same clerical stutter. Generic commodity codes, impossible totals that shaved under customs thresholds, and routing shorthand that mirrored what we saw on the whiteboard. The timing matched those blackout windows, the same tail numbers rotated in, the same handlers cleared space, and the same maintenance notes popped up right when the lens should have been live. Out front, the director wore compliance like a uniform, awards, community grants, public briefings about safety. Inside the Nexus file, the profile grid split 48 staffers by access tier, debt pressure, and soft points. Credit pulls flagged missed payments, notes recorded family obligations and side businesses, shift swaps lined up with the flights, clustering the same names on the same same nights. It didn't accuse, it measured risk and leverage, then stacked them into a roster. One clip in particular kept coming up. Adrian Markham, a mid-level supervisor, walked a pallet line toward a bay marked restricted use. The footage stops at the exact minute. A maintenance log claims a sensor calibration. When the feed resumes, the bay is sealed and the pallet count is off by 2. On paper, nothing moved. On video, a handler pointed, a tug rolled, and the gap closed before dawn. The drives broke the route maps into colors. 6 corridors moved product north into Toronto, Montreal, and Ottawa. Each lane used specific trucking swaps at pre-selected lots just outside city enforcement rings. The time windows hugged low patrol hours, the kind that dodge random stops and keep way stations quiet. Loads shifted from bonded cargo to domestic freight based on a 2-call confirmation, then vanished into distribution sheds that invoice cleaning supplies by the ton. Inside placement made it run. 18 operatives sat on choke points like dock scheduling, badge issuance, and loading supervision. 2 TSA contractors held override privileges that could mute a secondary screening for exactly 5 minutes. That window covered a tug route from Bay 12 to the cool storage, then out to the service road. The plan didn't need everyone. It needed key hands on simple controls. Who gets in, who rolls when, which door reads green, money told the rest. Ledgers masked as aviation consulting invoices washed $127 million through maintenance suppliers and non-profit fronts. Vendor accounts issued retainers, then wrote credits for unperformed work. A cluster of 19 donations flowed to Guadalajara accounts in steady increments that never crossed bank review triggers. The dates matched payout cycles after larger lifts, lagging by 3 to 5 days, as if someone waited for confirmation before the release. Once the drives synced to external hits, the map widened. Ontario seizures landed within hours of the Detroit raid, pulling trucks that mirrored the corridor colors and the lot locations. Packaging markers matched the code on the whiteboard. In 3 cases, manifests used the same vague commodity phrase. The cross-border footprint forced a tri-jurisdiction team to stand up fast, and for the first time, the midnight flights looked less like anomalies and more like a schedule. So how did 46 flights pass? The director signed waivers that let vague cargo move with minimal scrutiny, leaned on camera blackout windows, and pushed pallets through with pre-cleared staff carrying cloned and shell badges. With that backbone snapped, warrants fanned out from Michigan to the Ontario lots, and the paper risk turned into arrests, seizures, and a reset that reached into every office where a waiver stamp can move a plane 10 minutes early. A public office turned into a logistics node because the system trusted badges over behavior. Access logs greenlit movements the cameras should have challenged. Staffing policies put the same hands on the same doors. Finance systems paid invoices no one validated beyond a code. Every control bent the same direction. If you fly or ship, demand transparent cargo audits, third-party badge verification, and independent camera integrity checks at every major airport. Ask who reviews waivers and who watches the watchers. Require proof. The drives told one story in Detroit. If those checks don't happen, another airport writes the next chapter with the same ink.